Welcome back, Baddies, to Baddies Mean Business. It's been 2 weeks since I posted, and I am back. I have been traveling a ton, and so haven't had any time to really do any edits. And so I wanted to send a quick current episode to just talk about what's been going on. If you read the title, today I'm going to be talking about the whole concept of figuring out what you really want in your life, which is big. And honestly, I don't fully understand the whole idea of it quite yet, but I'm just going to talk about it a little bit because I've just hit my 3-month mark with my job, and I think it's a really nice point to start reflecting on things. And I feel like I've been talking to a lot of individuals, all ages, who have been just going through incredible transitions. For example, my mom was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and she recently moved to LA to pursue her acting career, and she's been killing it. She's been getting on shows, just experiencing what it's like to be on a studio for the last couple weeks, and it's been really inspiring to see. And it's a huge change, honestly, compared to our life before in Yakima. And then also people who are closer to my age who are going through professional changes and moving cities and just like really trying to figure out what they want in life, and me trying to figure out what I want in my life too, knowing that I talk to a lot of really cool people throughout my day, which I'm really grateful for. But like, what does that mean for me next? And so I'm gonna talk on all of that, but before I do, I'll give some general updates and then do a little baddie briefing, and then we'll get into it. So, general updates. I've mentioned before that I'm joining a bachelorette for the very first time, and why did nobody tell me really? Like, or not the bachelorette. I'm joining a wedding party for the first time. And it is like I feel for brides because there's so much work that goes into it. It's like a little part-time job. And no wonder people really engage in like long engagements because of how much planning that goes into everything from the rehearsal dinner to the bachelorette parties and the amount of money. It is unbelievable how much money goes into weddings, like how many people go in put into weddings. To me, I can't wrap my head around it, but I'm going to have to because we're entering that season of my life where I gotta spend a third of my bank account cash on attending all of these events, which not mad about it. Grateful to see these things and always dreamt about it. But man, it is a lot. It is a lot. But it's been such a fun experience. We went to my first bachelorette experience in Honolulu, or Hawaii in general, Oahu. And I got to go with all my cousins, and it was such a good time. All of my cousins are a bit older than I am, and so they've all gotten these types of experience before. And I've always dreamed. I was always the younger cousin who like always dreamed about doing these fun things with my cousins, and so it was really great to be able to do that now. Um, and then also went to New York recently. New York is so magical. You really feel like a whole different person when you're in the city. Not to be stereotypical, I know there's local New Yorkers there who just like, this is just our everyday life. But to me, I see it and I'm just like, I don't know how people get used to it. It just feels like every day is new and every day you can be a new person. It just is a cool, cool thing to do. Could I live there in New York? Never. I could not. I'm sorry. I pray transparently. It is so busy, obviously, and I don't know if I could do it. That is a lot of people. But excuse me, I'm getting a little sick. Anyways, those have been the travels lately, but what's coming up next is that there's a 300-person conference I've been planning with my work, where serves as a women's business summit called the Elevate Women's Summit in Rochester, New York. And what surprised me about this entire experience of this conference is how much resources are available in these cities that are not so much don't have so much attention on them. Like you wouldn't think of Rochester, New York having any sense of like necessarily like innovation resources such as like incubators, accelerators. Like it doesn't come top of mind from somebody like me who's grew up on the West Coast. Well, I did come from a smaller town as well, but we definitely did not have things like that at all, like accelerators. I didn't experience that for the first time until my freshman year of college at San Diego State, which is when I joined the Zip Launchpad, which is the SDSU incubator. Incubators, for those who don't know, incubators are programs that help business owners build their companies and allows them access to resources and education to do it. But Rochester, New York is really showing out. They have shown so much support, and it has been incredibly exciting to see how much people want to get involved with us just by like by asking. You just ask and people are like, yes, 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 yes. And I'm very grateful for that. It has been absolutely overwhelming handling. Obviously, we have about 40 speakers. And I'm based in San Diego, and so I'll be traveling over there. And then also we're expecting attendees of 300 people. But goodness, this has taught me of just how good people are because of how willing people are to help out with something that is brand new. This is our very first time hosting this type of event, but I just am very surprised in a positive way by how much support we've gotten. So that's coming up. As for travels, going to Kentucky this summer, there's just a lot that's going to happen. There's weddings. It's just a big year of change, travel, and all of it. And so, yeah, I've been thinking about my life and like what the heck is going on. And I think it's perfectly acceptable to just sit back and be like, I don't know exactly what is happening, but I know I'm on the right path. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. First, the baddie briefing, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do a little small segment about a funny little TikTok video I saw that I just like thought it was hilarious. So I'm kind of gonna build on it, and I'll touch on it after the baddie briefing. So, baddie briefing. This week's baddie briefing is going to be focusing on brands that I actually directly know the owners of the brand. So first things first, I've talked about this on Instagram before. If you've seen my video posted actually today, um, it is Sunspectra's brand, the lip balm, the 30 SPF lip balm right here I have in my hand. She gifted it to me. Mariola is the founder. And right in time because I just got back I was about to head out to the bachelorette party. And I'm not like a huge makeup girl. Like I don't have all the nice, like I probably have the same makeup I had since like sophomore year of college. I don't like shopping for that stuff very often, but I love recommendations for products that could be good because I don't like to do it on my own. So I'll take any recommendation possible. Thank you. Shout out to my best friend and my cousins because those girls know everything. But I will say though about this lip balm, I put it on just for an extra pop of color. And it also has the 30 SPF. I am half Caucasian. I will burn. I need everything I could get. But I put it on and it's nice. It's just nice little pop of color. And so I appreciate it. Sun Spectra. I'll link it in the description below. And then another thing is for our straw girlies, there's nothing more sexy than pulling out a 24 karat gold straw when you're hanging out with your friends and you don't have any sense of a straw nearby. Plastic straws are out, whatever. With 24 karat gold straw, I feel like it's kind of a flex. And so this is Eco Lux Goods. All you have to do, according to Lyle Berry, who is the founder of this company, you dip it in water, you pull it out, and it cleans. It's automatically clean and it's ready for your next thing. I am so skeptical of straws because of the whole idea of like the smoothies getting caught in it when you're drinking smoothies out of it. I don't drink smoothies all the time, but I always make sure to look in my straws to make sure that there's nothing in there because I refuse. I refuse to suck something up from like 2 drinks ago. Ugh, disgusting. So I don't know if this is I haven't tried this with a smoothie yet, but I appreciate the idea of it being able to be in your pocket, be in your purse, and you don't have to take it home necessarily to clean it all the way. You just dip her in water. So those are my 2 favorite things I've tried of recently. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of products that I pop in and out. But if there's anything you want me to try, please let me know. Because as I just mentioned before, I don't like looking for it myself, but I will. I'll do it if I have to. Okay. All right. Now, this next little segment, which I'm going to focus on, is there's this funny little video I saw on TikTok. I wish I had looked up the firm that posted it, but it was like, now that Gen Z is old in the courtrooms, old enough to be lawyers, what is some common slang that you'll often hear in the courtroom? And they brought anything up from, like it's giving Scorpio energy, like, the defendant is capping, like, which means lying, all of those funny little things. And so I was just like, well, what if you apply that to like the business world where, there's like professional jargon. I'm like, oh, bubbling this email up in your inbox. Like, hope you're well, best, your name, like all of this email lingo that you just kind of catch yourself into. But nobody would ever speak like that in real life. Well, I'm like, well, what is it going to look like for me? Because I'm a Gen Z girl, and I definitely have caught myself here and there kind of talking more like I would talk outside of the professional setting. Um, just when you get comfortable, everybody has their things. So some of the ones I found that I thought were absolutely hilarious. Okay, first one is I use often, very often, is I'm in my blank era. So it's like I'm in my saying no era. I'm in my bumping your email era. I'm in my scheduling it later era. Like not to be annoying, not to be annoying, but like I use that for just about everything. If I don't want to address it, I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm in my blah 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 era. With respect to the situation, of course, because we are professionals here and we want to respect people's time. But I thought it was a funny little play on words. Thank you, Taylor Swift. Another one would be the word bet. I think I have caught myself saying that maybe once or twice, but after that, never again, because that is totally funky, weird to be using in a sentence when you're working. Is like, oh yeah, like your manager sends you a request to do this, this, and this, and you just respond bet. Like you can't do that. I don't know if you can't. Well, you can do whatever you want, but like it's just like a funky little thing to do. And I think that's kind of the whole thing with Gen Z coming up in the workplace is not to put an umbrella over all of the entire generation, but I feel like when I work with other Gen Z individuals, like that there's two ways to go to that coin. Either they are not very balanced in the way that they balance their personality with their professionalism. Either they just get very casual in the professional workplace where they just kind of do their thing and talk like they would talk anywhere else. And then there's the other side of the coin where it's like they're overcompensating up to stay professional and sound a little bit more, say, robotic, because since we are on the younger end of the professional spectrum, um, sometimes we try to overcompensate, especially when we're trying to grow our careers, just to fit into a mold of what an executive would look like, which I definitely have caught myself doing too, where it's just like, I know this is how executives speak, therefore this is the template I will use, even though I may not necessarily use that in my day-to-day life. But it just depends on like, to what degree do you want to bend and mold in that? Who knows? Who knows? But I think it's very curious. And I have people all the time ask me, like, oh, it's just so intriguing how Gen Z works in the workplace, because we are very, we pick up things quite frequently or quite quickly because we know how to figure out information online or go to TikTok, etc. Or we're quick to pick up technologies because we've grown up with it. But that's a little bit that. I'll kind of leave it just at that. Look at the sun. The sun, for those who are watching, is doing amazing things for me right now. But okay. Knowing what you really want in your life. That is such a high, big idea. But let me give some context of what exactly I mean, based on my own life. Okay. So for those who've been listening for a while, I was the chief of staff for a venture capital fund. And when you work for a venture capital firm or in finance, investments, etc., there's big numbers that get passed along very easily, like 6 figures, 7, 8 figures. Like talking about millions of dollars is a very casual conversation, which to me is just insane. Saying like, for example, like working for a under $10 million fund is like considered incredibly small. And you're like, oh, well, I've never seen $10 million in my bank account. I don't think it sounds small. But I remember when I was working there and kind of moving even to where I am now, it's like these type of numbers and working with the type of people that you work with, as you grow in your career, it gets to be a higher level and higher expectations. And I think it's so easy to get caught up into the corporate ladder, figuring out like kind of trying to figure out what you should be wanting, like noticing and seeing other things that are external to you on social media, or hearing people give you input of what you should be wanting and how you should be wanting to grow, versus knowing what is it that actually you do actually want. because sometimes money gets you far. Like money can get you far, and I see the value in building. Of course, everyone wants to build wealth. Everyone wants to feel secure and be able to do things for other people that requires money. But the whole when you grow in wealth, it also sells parts of your soul back because there's expectations put on you. It's just like I don't think that there is not a trade-off in that. I think I've seen very successful people stay very in tune with who they are, which I admire the heck out of, and I continue to want to figure out how they do it, because it's like people are going to start to use you. Like people are going to start to like ask you for favors and ask you to do more and more, and you have to learn how to say no more and more. Because I remember back in like college, I was just like, oh, why would you say no to anything? Like, I'll take any opportunity I can get. Why? Who am I to say no to any opportunity? Like, I'll take anything. I am nobody. But then it's like, oh, shoot. Well, you get to a point where you've said yes so many times that you're like, well, I'm not even doing anything like the best I can. I don't even like who I'm showing up as right now because I am so depleted of energy and resources and all of it that I don't even know what it is I want out of all the things that I'm doing. I just continue to say yes to everything. And so that's kind of the scenario where I'm like, this is not just professional. This is actually life too. And as we grow older and older and we start to build families, and there's going to be more requirements, like soon your life as a single person or as a couple is not going to just depend on you and another person. It's going to depend on if you want kids. It's going to depend on many different lives. And so there's people who listen to this podcast who are already parents. Um, and for me, I come from the perspective of someone who's not a parent yet, but is very introspective of the experience through conversations. And so I'm just trying to figure out a way. I'm like, well, how is it that you don't lose your soul and lose your identity through these trials that come and face you, as you make choices to better your life or to progress your life in a positive way. Um, Now to being where I'm at now, after I my last role didn't work out for the best, I will say, which because I was not fit for that role. It was a very challenging role. And quite frankly, I just didn't have the experience for it yet. But I learned more than I probably could have learned in like 4 years of schooling in that 1 year of being a chief of staff for a venture capital fund, obviously, because I'm the type of person who learns by doing. After that, I decided to do social media management because I already had a media company entity through the podcast called Baddies Business LLC. And then when I began to freelance, I really sat there and was like, oh, this is what I want to do. I'm going to work for myself and I'm going to be happy and it's going to be great. And I was familiar with how building businesses was like, familiar, not an expert by all means, just familiar. Um, and I was like, I know how to do it to a point. Like, especially when I work with people who gain investment from investors. So venture capital is like, it's like the end all be all. But there's so many different levels of success when it comes to the making a decision to start your own business. um I think it's important to know how big of a business you want it to be. Like, how much would you be willing to manage? What is it that you really want out of having your own business? Because having your own business, you lose so much time. You're going to be broke for probably a couple months because you are bootstrapping the heck out of it. You're trying not to bring on stakeholders until you're ready, because you want to have as much control over what is being done as possible, especially when you're starting off with just 1 to 2 people. Me, I was completely solo and had occasional contractors. Um, and it was hard. It was just so hard getting clients, making sure clients paid you what you deserved, but you having the level of service that they deserve as well. All a trial by error. Everyone makes mistakes. I think also that entrepreneurship has been such a glamorized thing to this point where everybody's an entrepreneur at this point. Everybody has some sense of a side gig. I also think the economy kind of has a take on that. Part of me thinks that no longer, not a professional. This is all opinion. Um, but I feel like the way that the economy is running, yeah, people have gone to entrepreneurship as a resource for them because they don't have many other choices, because the level of pay that is they're receiving at their day jobs is just not to the scale of which the economy is demanding them to pay and their expenses. And so I'm like, oh yeah, everyone's becoming an entrepreneur because that's the only way to survive at this point. Entrepreneurship is survival at some of these points. And in order to have a lifestyle that you feel comfortable in, it's going to require you doing like a side gig or two. And I think it's kind of sad to think like that some people do it for that reason, but also I think it's very empowering for people to be encouraged to run a business, because I think running a business, for one, for me, has taught me just like how when things go wrong in other companies, seeing what may be happening behind the scenes that may be causing it, it's not as easy as, oh, like somebody just made a stupid mistake. That happens for sure. But sometimes there's just so many factors that goes into it. It kind of gives you more patience to understand like there is so much that goes on behind people's businesses, and to apply it to personal life. There's so much that goes on in people's lives that you may not be able to see. So therefore, it kind of teaches you patience to be able to treat people better, and be a human that you're proud to be, because you have a greater understanding of what these experiences are like. So I feel like that feeds into a bigger theme of like exploring things before you make hard decisions. Like, for example, if you want to transition in your job, or if you don't really like the friend group that you are surrounded by, or anything like that. I've had my experiences where I felt that type of way, where I'm just like, I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to be, but where am I supposed to be? And I didn't don't get probably get those answers until years later after, but it just took many trials to figure it out, and I still am figuring it out. Personally, I'm very proud and excited to where I'm at right now. Um, Working with the Stella Foundation and being able to literally serve women every single day and have a very direct repercussion and impact report of what it looks like, of what the work I'm doing is doing for other people. That to me is what I find a success. And I think where I've been struggling is correlating that level of satisfaction, so the subjective satisfaction of receiving affirmations from people and hearing about other people's stories, which I find is like the greatest currency. But making that, that into a passion also for growing wealth, because I it's almost fulfilling a potential that I know is I'm capable of and other people are very capable of, but not feeding into the whole idea of like wealth is egotistical or unfulfilling or anything like that, which it can totally be. I see both sides, but I have a very tricky relationship with money and asking for money and getting paid what I'm worth, and I've that's one of the biggest things I've been working on in these last few years is like defending my worth to other people, and standing by it. And it's something I'll continue to always think about. And I think that's the same thing that goes for personal lives, is like sometimes you don't really see the value of you as a person. Therefore, you kind of deal with lesser valued individuals who may not have their stuff figured out. But at least you sometimes feel like it's better to be in with around those people because it makes you feel better. Like you feel like a more put together human when you're around dysfunctional humans. Of course, I mean, you are who you surround yourself with. They don't say that just to say that. Um, it's really just because it's like if you put yourself into a higher standard, like if you're a business owner with people who may not be familiar with running a business, and they may not be able to understand similar experiences just because they haven't experienced it yet, maybe putting yourself in a room full of people who have had similar experiences will make you feel less alone and less estranged from society as a whole. Um, because then you can kind of get a gauge of like, oh no, I'm not the only one experiencing these things. It's just that I just had to go to a different room and ask different questions to different people. Every room has a different questions that should be asked in that room. Um, and I think it's really interesting. And so I feel like also by putting yourself out there more, you're going to be getting more noise feedback that can be even harder to break apart and harder to differentiate from your own opinion. And soon it gets to a point where you just listen to everyone's opinions around you. Especially for me, I definitely think I have a more of a authority not like issue or complex, but like I've always have been taught culturally to respect my elders, age being a direct factor of all of this. So it's like if you're older than me, I must respect you. I'm half Samoan and I grew up in the culture, which is amazing and a beautiful culture. But that's what we're taught. And so when going into a place where I'm not going to always that's not always going to hold true, where if even if I'm younger, it doesn't mean I need to just take every person who's older than me their word by as Bible. Sometimes I do you got to critically think and create your own assumptions and being like, okay, well, given this and this, what would I do in this scenario? Not just assuming, since other people have more experience, that they're the ones that are right. So it's thinking about it, and if they are right, agreeing that they're right, but at least you thought about it. And so breaking down that bias for me has been quite a journey. The majority of the people I work with now are at more executive level or founders who are the decision makers. And so learning to think in the similar way that decision makers are meant to think, kind of stepping into that main character energy has been very powerful and been a journey, and it's a continuous journey. The path is still very long, and I see it being much, much longer than where I'm at. Um, but it's kind of like empowering to know that you can have this diversified point of view to deal with different types of people at different types of ages and different types of rooms, and having a level of patience that I respect the heck out of people who have patience for people who test theirs. Because I do think I have more of a stronger personality, a little bit, for those who may know me a little bit. I definitely am one to speak on topics if I need it, and if I'm wrong, I will admit I'm wrong. It'll hurt a little bit. It'll punch me in the ego for sure. Might get a little get a little insecure for a moment, but being able to pull myself back up and be like, okay, girl, chill. Like, back in your main character energy. Everything happens. Mistakes happen. You move on with your life. Um, and that's what I'm talking about. So for me, in summary, like the whole idea, like we don't know what we don't know. But knowing what you want in life is such a tricky little journey that it's like what you think you want now is going to change from beef later. It's going to. There's no way. For people who know what they want from a young age and it stays the same throughout the end, I admire them. And honestly, I'd read a book about them. I'd read that memoir. I'd read about that. Like, how did you know? And there's people who know. Like, for example, that the Deepest Breath documentary, which should have won a ton of awards, Same thing as Society of the Snow. They totally got stiffed. Like, they should have gotten so many awards. But back to the Deepest Breath, the whole idea was about the top female free diving. Oh, what does it say? The top female free diver. She knew from an early age that she was going to do this for the rest of her life, and she did. And that's a conviction that's true, and it happens. But oftentimes, more often than not, I think people's viewpoints change, and sometimes people get a little complacent. Like, this is what the pool that I was given, or this is all I know and I see. Therefore, I'm comfortable here. But the people I really admire personally are the ones who are like curious for more, don't know what more looks like. And I said more was my word of the year, and it still holds true. Um, but they still pursue it. And I'm like, oh, I want to follow those people. I'm like, where are you guys going? Where are y'all gonna go? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Does anyone know what they're doing? But I'm willing to go off a little bit blind faith and see what it might turn out to be, because I think it's much more exciting that way. I love to be surprised. Hopefully a good surprise. Sometimes not. Um, but at least I'd be proud of myself to know that I tried something that was out of my comfort zone, and finding more and more people who I really admire and being around them as much as possible is really exciting. But yes, that's kind of high level what I'm going to talk about. So some questions I'll just leave with you. And I'll probably drop some links below to kind of build on these ideas. Is like, what do you want now, for now? Like, what is it that you would love to accomplish right now? Please respond to this podcast. I'll put a poll below. And I would love to hear it, because I just like hearing about these ideas, the things that people care about. Um, And then is money your main determination of success? What is your main determinant of success? What does success look like for you? Because success doesn't just mean money. Success means impact. Like, how many lives have I touched? How many lives have I changed? How much was I able to grow something? Like, it can look like anything. It doesn't just mean money. Especially when those who hang around a lot of people with wealth, and start to really get comfortable with the idea that obtaining a high amount of wealth and money each, like in your paycheck, is normal and possible and achievable. Like, how has that whole thought process developed within you? I'm curious to know. And then, yeah, I'll just share it with other people that you care about, and would receive it in a positive way, because I think there's something powerful to be able to communicate ideas with people that they don't jump to get insecure about because they're not quite on that level, or more so people who are understanding and are inspired by having another partner, a thought partner to really build ideas with. um and this is what this is all about. This is what this entire podcast is supposed to be about, is a strong girl group. Any group, guys are welcome too. Um, where we can just share these ideas and build on them and really support each other in a way that means something, and we don't need to feel insecure if we're not quite at the same level, or etc. Because in the end, we're all human beings who were born the same exact way as the other, and just provided different resources at different times. So it's like, how can we help? I love you guys. I am here for you, and I want to be here for you. So I'm going to be posting typically every week. It may not always be on Sunday. Sorry about that. But would love to hear from you. So follow me on Baddies Mean Business on YouTube, Instagram, etc. And I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.